Hi folks, Racing Lawyer here again with another track walk with the PCA Sim Series. This week we are at Sebring in the Porsche 718 GT4 Club Sport. So like usual, I will go ahead and run one lap at full speed so you can get an idea of the pace and the line and uninterrupted, and then we will reverse it back and take each turn turn by turn and go through it and look at some of the things that I particularly look for when driving around Sebring. Some of these things may work for you, they may not, but it's just there to give you a guide and at least a starting point for when you start tackling Sebring, especially for those of you that have never driven Sebring into the GT4 before. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and run the lap. Like usual, down here at the bottom left is my telemetry. So you've got my brake pedal in green. Our brake pedal will be in red. My gas pedal will be in green. And then you have my steering inputs to the left of that. So at any time you can rewind it, go back to my uninterrupted single lap and take a look at any of the data you'd like to see there. So here we go. Here's the lap. And there we go. That was the lap of the GT4 at Sebring. Now, it wasn't the cleanest lap that I've ever done, but it did end up being a 211.86. If you want to replicate my conditions for track, it was a very hot track at 106 track temp. I basically ran it at noon sim time with 65-degree ambient temperature to get that 106-degree track temp. So a little bit of greasy out there, especially on the GT4, but there's definitely some places where I got a little bit ahead of myself, so I'll point those out when we go through the track walk itself. So let's go ahead and rewind back to the beginning here. Hopefully it appears we can't do that because iRacing is being weird. What is it going on? Okay, so sorry about that. Here we go for the track walk. We're going to pop into chase camera so we can see a little bit better of what's going on. And the thing about Sebring, and the thing you want to keep in mind going through Sebring, is it is bumpy. This car does not like to be manhandled around the course. If you find yourself really struggling and really fighting with the car, back everything up. Brake a little bit earlier, brake a little softer, turn in a little slower, get on the accelerator slower. Just make everything more deliberate than you were before to try to get it nice and relaxed. This car does not like to change directions very quickly, and therefore going over bumps, providing a lot of input can really upset the balance of the car and will ultimately lead to you sliding the car and being slower on your lap time. So coming down the straightaway at Sebring, all we want to do here is we're setting up for turn 1, which is going to be a left-hand turn. My apologies. It's going to be a left-hand turn. All we want to do is move the car over to the right at our own pace. Please be in mind that this is a prime opportunity for passing at Sebring, is down the front straight. So if you're in multi-class racing, as our Central Zone group is, there may be GT3 Cup cars coming up behind. Just be cognizant of them if they are there, because they're going to be trying to get around you. Declare your line as fast as you can. So if you want to move over to the right, make sure you've done it without any ambiguity so they know to pass you on the left. If you intend to stay on the left and let them by on the right, stay over there on your track out after sunset and they'll know to pass you on the right. So coming into turn 1, it's one of the more turns in all of racing. It's this broad left blind sweeper, and the only reason it's blind is because there's a wall here and you can't see through the wall. Our marker for braking, at least for me, tends to be up here where the jersey barriers kind of fold in a touch. I tend to brake just before that. So when I can see that little fold, I'll start hitting the brakes. And in fact, right here, I've already started. So it's just after the bridge. Start getting on the brakes right around here. I see the fold that I'm trying to aim for. And that's kind of my turn-in point to go into turn 1. So there we go. I've started to turn in. And when you're coming through turn 1, everything about turn 1 is late apex, late apex, late apex. The tendency is to turn in too early and apex too early on this corner because it is a long corner. You see the turn here, you think that this is the apex right here, what we can see on the corner, but that's not it. The apex is actually around the corner. And in fact, there's a cone sitting in the fence up at the top, which represents the actual true apex of the corner. What we want to do is we want to ideally have our car as close to the left wall under that cone as possible. And I know that if I get to that cone and I'm close to that wall, I can hammer the throttle at that point, and I know I'll make the track out point on turn 1. So here we go, coming through. I'm still turning, kind of coasting, trail braking it in. I see the cone. I see where I want to put the car, which is on the left side of this yellow mark, in between the yellow mark and the wall, as close as possible. And start feeding on throttle when I know that I'm going to apex this corner under this cone. So as you can see, I've already started to push on the throttle. I'm almost full throttle at apex where the cone is because I know I'll make the corner at this point. And full throttle all the way to track out. Now, if you apex early before that cone and you get on full throttle, you're going to end up out here in the dirt. If that happens, get out of the gas, don't hit the brake, and just ride the car straight and bring it back slowly onto the track and make sure you're not going to come out in front of anybody. If you try to fight the car from going onto the dirt, the tendency is for the rear to get loose and you'll J-hook it across the track and probably end up in the barrier to the left. So it's just best to basically wait, get on the throttle when you know that you're going to apex at the cone, and then you can take it full out. That is a 4th gear corner. I downshift to 4th gear coming off that straightaway. Coming into turn 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's a little technical complex of turns. This is not a passing zone. Cup cars need to wait on GT4 cars here, and GT4 cars just need to take their line through here and not expect to be passed through this section. My mark for just about every car that I run is these 3 cones, the first set of 3 cones. There's actually a convenient white line that runs across the track. That's going to be my braking point. Here I broke just a touch earlier than that, and then the GT4 with the hot track, I have to do it in order to keep the car under me. I'll downshift to 3rd gear, but I won't go any further, so it's a 3rd gear corner. And the idea is you hit those 3 cones, brake in a straight line using the right side of the track, and then turn in after that last cone get off the brakes, so trail it in, but get off the brakes. And I've already started picking up a little bit of maintenance throttle through this section. Coming through the first one, so this would be turn 3 here, I want to try to pinch it off on the left side a little bit to set up for turn 4, the right-hander. So what I mean by that is I won't track out past half track. Well, in this case I actually did, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit closer to mid-track if possible so I can have a little bit of a better angle coming into turn 4. You can get up on this curbing so long as you're not on the gas or you breathe, so you'll notice I have gotten out of the throttle as I hit the curbing and then get back on it when the car settles. And then for turn 5, a lot of people like to get the car all the way to the far right in order to turn left. I like to end up wherever the car ends up, that's going to be my turn-in point. It's a lot slower than you think. It's a little bit of a decreasing radius corner, so the corner is going to get tighter and tighter. And what we want to do is we want to apex as late as possible. So we hold, stay wherever the car was when we want to try to turn in, and we're trying to apex around the corner. So you see I don't hit the apex until almost at the end of this this filled concrete area that they've added in. So let me rewind it real quick and you can kind of see. The tendency here would be to apex right here, but we want to apex further around the corner. And that way we're delaying our throttle input to get the best run, because when we go to full throttle, we want to be on full throttle. We don't want to go to throttle, come out, and then get back on it again. So you'll notice with my inputs down here, I'm waiting, and then full throttle, because I know I'm going to make it. You can use a little bit of this curbing out on the right. Just know that the first hit is going to be pretty substantial, and then it will drop and get flat on the second bit of curbing out on the outside. So there's the little bump. Now on that particular lap, I went in a little bit too hot, got a little bit of oversteer and slid the car, so I didn't get the best run out coming through Big Bend, but it worked. So this is a chance for you to let cars faster traffic by, relax a little bit and prepare yourself for the hairpin, which is turn 7. Now for turn 7, all we're trying to do is we need to maximize our braking, which means we need to brake in an absolute straight line. And in this car, it's absolute threshold braking. So brake as hard as you can, 10 pedal. I brake a little bit before the 4 cones, the first set of cones that are here, and almost every single car that I drive at iRacing will be the same, around the same brake point. So it's after the bridge, before the 4 cones, and just slowly start working it and walking it there. I would suggest maybe start just after the bridge, and as you get more and more comfortable with this car in this turn, start walking it. Now the whole goal of the hairpin is to brake in a straight line, get it slowed down, and then get off the brakes and turned in to try to get on throttle as fast as possible coming out of it. And so you'll see what I mean coming through. So I get on the brakes right here, so I'm maybe 3 car lengths before the 4 cones that I'm hitting the brakes, and I'm going to hit these brakes hard. So I am almost 100% braking through here. I am actually in the ABS in this car, basically trying to slow it down as fast as possible. And what I try to do is I will keep the car all the way to the left for as long as possible and try to take a very sharp diamond corner coming through the hairpin. So I don't try to trail it in early. I try to take a nice late apex, and you'll see what I mean. I don't turn in until halfway down this curbing on the left side. And then as I turn in, you'll see me start to bleed off the brakes. And I'm only using the brakes to help me turn. And then right here, I'm done with my braking. I'm off of it, and I'm actually starting to feed in throttle because I've got good rotation in the car. And that throttle is going to help further rotate the car and also settle the rear. So on the throttle before apex, and just slowly start feeding it on. And when I know I can make it, I'm at full throttle. Now it's okay to run 2 wheels over here in the grass. Just make sure your right 2 wheels are on the right side of the yellow line. Coming through Fangio is just dead straight. I mean, not dead straight, but flat out in most cars. So, again, another opportunity to let faster traffic by if you see them coming. Relax, kind of get ready and prepare yourself for Cunningham, which is turn 10. Cunningham is a very difficult corner. Again, we're using the cones as your brake marker, so I will brake just before or right at the 4 cones where the line is. And again, it is a threshold brake zone, so you're doing everything you can to get the car slowed up. So maximum braking. And then what you want to do here is actually you want to turn in what I feel like is a little bit early. So I turn in pretty much just after the final cone, and I will slowly bring it in, and the goal is to downshift into second gear, get as close to this curbing on the right as I can without touching it. And when I track out, I don't really want to track out all the way to track out on the left side of the curbing because we're about to take a left and turn 11. So I try to leave maybe a car width between me and the car on the left side. So we'll see how that works. So here we go. I missed the curbing just a little bit, but that's fine because I'm basically I'd rather err on missing the curbing than hitting it. This curbing can upset the car. Second gear, I start feeding on throttle, and you'll see right here I've left about a car width between me and total track out left because we're about to turn left for turn 11. Second gear up to a quick third gear, and because I left that extra car width to the left, I still have a little bit of room to turn in and make this a normal corner flat out. So you notice my throttle, I am 100% all the way through this point going through turn 11, and I am full throttle all the way into the braking zone for turn 13, which is tower. Now for me, in going into tower, I don't mind being over here on the right side of the track. A lot of people like to try to get the car all the way to the left to try to go around the outside here to try to get a straighter line, but I've found that I can brake in a straight line just as effectively from this curbing basically pointed at the single cone here. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So here we go. Do my last little turn through turn 12, and then I'm trying to create a straight line from this point to that cone down there, and that's my brake zone. So it's going left a little bit as the track is bending to the right, but I'm braking in a straight line, getting efficient braking because of that. So I've started my brake. I brake after the apex point on turn 12. Nice straight line. I'm still turning the car a little bit to try to get it nice and lined up, and my goal is to have the car parallel to this rumble strip and off the brakes to turn into tower. So here we go. Braking right here. I'm about to do my final turn in. I'm parallel with the rumble strip. I'm off the brake to try to help rotate. And at this point, I'm done with my braking. I've basically pitched the car in, let the momentum carry me through. And tower is a deceiving corner. It's always faster than you think it is. It's very cambered down here on apex. And if you do it right, you'll stay off this curbing, you'll get right up on it, and it will just catch you and slingshot you all the way around. I've already started feeding on the throttle at 64 miles an hour, so let's actually look and see what my min speed. I think it's probably going to end up being 64. Yeah, so 64 is my min speed going into here. I start picking up throttle here, and I pretty much nailed it perfectly. Tires right up on the curb but not getting on it. The bull catches me in third gear, and I'm able to apex it perfectly coming out. After tower, we come up to turn 14, which is bishop in the GT4, and in most cars it's absolute flat out. On this lap, I completely blow it for some reason. I don't know what I was looking at, but the idea is you want to put your left tires on the rumbles here to try to track out to about mid-track and then bring it all the way to track left to set up for the right-hander at turn 15. So what I end up doing is I miss the first point. I end up going way too far to the right. So I actually want the car to be over here, pretty much left of this dark filler line. So I can, when we come into the braking zone for turn 15, I actually want to be over here all the way on track left. For some reason, I'm over here on the right on this particular lap, but hey, it is what it is. Sometimes if you're trying to make a pass, you'll end up over here. So it's not a bad idea to practice trying to take 15 offline, because it is an opportunity to pass. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to brake just before the 3 cone. I had to brake a little bit earlier here because I'm so far offline that the corner is going to be much tighter for me than if I was over here. And the idea here, what we want to do coming into 15 is my thought is get off the brakes and roll momentum through this next section of corners. So I'm already off the brakes. If we actually back up, I'm braking here, and then as I turn in, boom, I'm off the brakes and already starting to feed on throttle, maintenance throttle, to try to settle the rear of the car. We want to get all up on this curb on the right side, and in fact we can even drop 2 tires just to the right of the curbing if we're feeling really spicy. Just understand that when you come back over the curbing with your right tires, it is going to bounce the car and it can make it a little unsettled. Ideally for me, when I'm taking this corner, I'll get my 2 right tires up as close as I can to the seam without going over it. As long as you leave your left 2 tires left of the yellow line, you will not pick up a 1X. But if you go too far to the right, you definitely will, and you can even get a slowdown if you're way far right. So because of my kind of sacrificed turn in, I missed my point a little bit. I'd rather be another, 6 inches or a foot further right. But the idea is we're carrying momentum, and we'll carry the momentum all the way out, carry the speed all the way out to the exit point, which is all the way to the rumbles on the left. This next left-hander is not as severe as the first one, so it's okay that we're on the left side of the track for that turn. And what we're trying to do here is gear up for Le Mans. Now, a lot of people like to pop out way over here to the left to try to make this turn as wide as possible. There's some credence to that, but the problem is if you pop all the way out here and you've got somebody behind you, it leaves the door open for them to try to make a move. If you've got a GT3 Cup car behind you that's looking to try to get by you, and you go all the way over here to the left, he's going to think, okay, he's giving me the corner, I can go ahead and go through. And that may not be your intention. So I don't tend to pop out as much as some people do, but try different things, see what works well for you. So when I pop out, I come out, maybe it's about here. Maybe I'll get all 4 wheels left of the line, but I tend not to go too far much further than that. You'll see some folks that are out here, like so another 3 car widths out to the left. And it's all to try to get the best run you can through turn 16, which is known as Le Mans. So it is a traditional right-hand corner, much like the one at 15 that we just did. You'll have to do a little bit of braking early, get the car rotated in. And again, we're trying to get up on this curbing with the right side tires. You can go over the curbing if you're feeling a little risque and you don't mind the bump coming out. But just beware, it can get slick here. So be cautious with your throttle application, especially in the GT4 car. If you just hammer the throttle, you can spin it here. And then our goal on the exit is basically to use all this rumble strip. Go all the way up to the grass, don't go onto the grass, and just bring the car back onto the track before the end of the rumble strip. This is all track as far as iRacing is concerned. Now, if you got a good run coming out of there, we are now running down the Ullman Straight. This is the longest straightaway on the track. This is where drafting happens. You can let by faster traffic. You can get runs on the guy you're trying to pass going up into Sunset. And we're coming up into the final corner, which is Sunset Bend. It is probably the most famous corner for this track. Sunset is a decreasing radius, almost 180 degree turn. Well, it actually is a 180 degree turn. It's just a prolonged hairpin. It's not a hairpin in the sense that it's super tight. You can carry a lot of speed through it. But it seems to never end. And what we're trying to do for Sunset is we're trying to minimize the distance that Sunset is. So I like to take it tight and keep it almost like a double apex corner. Other people like to take it in really deep in the braking zone, diamond it like a single apex corner, which is around the corner. So they'll drive it all the way in, get the car turned, and then get back on the throttle. And they think that is the most effective way for them. There's 100 lines through Sunset, so I'll just show you what I'm comfortable with. You can do a variation of it. If something works better for you or you sound like something else, let me know, and we can always discuss it on Discord. So coming in the GT4, I like to brake at the 3 cones or just before the 3 cones. So right there is where I've hit the brakes. It is a pretty firm brake pedal initially, and my goal here is when I brake is I want to get my right side as close to this little tire, the end of this wall right here in this tire barrier, as I can. So I'm trying to make it a straight line from the 3 cones all the way to that tire wall while riding the brakes. So I'm on the brakes, on the brakes, on the brakes. I displaced it a little bit here. I could have gotten a little bit closer, but you'll notice that if you try to hit that wall, the corner seems to get out of your way, and it's just really difficult to get the car all the way down there. staying on the brakes all the way around. And then here's my first apex. What I'm trying to look for is basically this yellow line where this wall has made this first curve. I'm trying to get the car pretty much right at this yellow line, close to this wall as I can. The closer, in my opinion, the better. So in this particular one, I took it a little bit deep. I missed my apex just a touch, but that's okay because it keeps winding around and I'm basically late apexing it. So only now, at this point, halfway through, have I gotten off the brakes. So I've been trail braking all the way into this point. And I start feeding on a little bit of throttle, to try to settle the rear of the car. My second apex is basically just left of this cone, so maybe a car width off of the grass coming around this cone. And I know that if I can get the car pointed somewhere in the vicinity of this cone, I can get back on full throttle. In fact, I've already started to almost be full throttle here. Now on this particular lap, I hit a bump right here, and it kind of oversteered the car, and I had to get back out of it and straighten the car out, and it cost me a little bit of time. But no harm, no foul. The other thing about Sunset is that it's very bumpy. Different lines have different bumps, and so just experiment with what you can. So we'll take it full speed, braking, trying to hit the first apex, which is that wall where the curve is. Let the car run a little bit, hit the second apex, and then come back on full throttle, and we should be well. So that is a lap of Sebring. Again, it's fun track, bumpy track. Don't try to manhandle the car. Let the car do what it's going to do. Nice smooth inputs both on braking, accelerating, and also with turning. And smooth is the call of the day for Sebring. And if you're smooth with the car, you're going to have good lap times and you're going to have a good race. As always, this is Racing Lawyer with the PCA Sim Racing series. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Discord. Hope this is helpful, and I will see you in the next race. Thank you.